going on, Jerome's? The NFL draft is the lifeblood of every franchise in the league, unless you're the Rams. All right, so Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, new GM of the Vikings, first draft at the helm this year, 2022, and Kwesi, he's been a little unorthodox, trading in division twice in the draft, giving the Packers allegedly Christian Watson, giving the Lions allegedly Jameson Williams. We'll see how that works out. But Kwesi, we put a degree of faith in Kwesi, and his draft class hasn't worked out the way that you necessarily want a rookie draft class to work out so far, but it is year one, and this team is in a competitive rebuild. So we're looking at what these guys are going to contribute in years 3, years 4, and beyond. But there are some bright spots. Like I think that it's way too soon just to be like, oh, this draft class is a bust and blah 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 blah. No, but we're going to go through and assess the first draft class of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's tenure here as the Vikings general manager. So up at the top, first round pick Lewis Cine. Now, yeah, a lot of people are capping because Kwesi's like, hey, the Vikings were at 12. We traded down. We could have had Kyle Hamilton. We could have had Linderbaum. We could have had Jordan Davis. All that stuff. And yeah, they're playing well as rookies. But it remains to be seen if it was the right move or not. It's very hard to assess in the moment. But let's see what happens 2, 3, 4 years down the line, because I think this still has a chance to be a great rookie class. By the way, so there's two parts of how rookies play and contribute right away. Number one, if they're a great player, that's a given. But number two, the team has to have a lot of holes, a lot of openings that allow young players to get on the field right away. So it's always somewhere in the middle. And the Vikings, the fact that they're a very veteran-heavy team and also a talent at a lot of different spots, there really wasn't a ton of opportunity. Because, like, what? Were you going to bench Cameron Bynum for Lewis Cine? Were you going to bench Patrick Peterson or Cameron Dantzler for Booth or Caleb Evans? Were you going to bench Kendricks or Jordan Hicks for Brian Asamoah right away? Maybe. Actually, maybe. I don't know. But run through up at the top, yes, Lewis Cine at 32 after the Vikings trade down from 12. Lions got Jameson Williams. Vikings got a bevy of picks. But Lewis Cine, so he appeared in 3 games, had 2 defensive snaps, played mostly on special teams, had that really ugly, unfortunate compound fracture in his leg against the Saints, but he's in good spirits. He's hitting rehab, and he should be good to go for most of the Vikings offseason work and into 2023. And I'm still very bullish on Lewis Cine. I think that he is a great player. I think that he brings a hammer on the back end of the defense. I think that eventually he will succeed Harrison Smith, and I think that the future Viking safety duo of Lewis Cine as well as Cameron Bynum would be very nice for the Vikings going forward. Into day 2, 2 second rounders, Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. So he played in 2 games. He started against Dallas. That did not go well. He did have 9 tackles in that game, though, mainly because his receiver kept catching the ball. He went on IR with a knee issue, had a meniscus surgery, and Booth. So the issue with Booth at Clemson is that he obviously has first-round talent, but he had a tough time staying healthy, and that's starting to bear out here in the NFL, but we'll see what he can bring in 2023. Ed Ingram from LSU. So the Vikings offensive line has been a work in progress all season, even though on paper, on purpose, they do have one of the best tackle duos in the National Football League. This is probably the best offensive line that Kirk Cousins has had in his 5 years here with the Vikings, which isn't saying much since Kirk is the 5th most pressured quarterback in the NFL. Also, he's taken 125 hits, 44 sacks, which is a career high, and that's through 15 games, by the way. But Ed Ingram, he's been a 15-game starter for the Vikings at right guard. He's allowed 54 pressures and 10 sacks. Now, those would be really good numbers if Ed Ingram was a defensive player, 54 pressures, 10 sacks, but he is not. Also, he stepped on Kirk Cousins 3 times, which is an issue in itself. Now, he's been good in the run game. Pass protection needs to come along a little bit, but I think that eventually he will round into form as a solid starter in this league. Third rounder, number 66 overall, Brian Asamoah, coming out of Oklahoma. Finally, he's starting to get the time of day. He's the guy that we loved at Oklahoma, was ecstatic to get him in the 3rd round, and he provided a spark on special teams. He's starting to get more and more involved on the defense as the Vikings are starting to sit Hicks, rotating Kendricks a little bit. He's got 12 tackles, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. That was the major play against the Giants, stripping the tight end, also picking up his own fumble. I love to see it. And Brian Asamoah, I think, is going to be a future star on the defense for the Vikings. He is a big play machine into day 3. So So Caleb Evans, remember the Vikings maneuvered and gave up a 2023 4th-round pick to be able to secure a Caleb Evans out of Mizzou. Now, you can make a case that Evans was the most successful Vikings rookie, where he played in 10 games, a lot on defense. He had 2 starts, 23 tackles, very good in run support, 2 passes broken up, forced a fumble, and overall, he showed a lot of promise in terms of what he can bring to this defense long term. Now, he did suffer a number of concussions, missed some time. They also put him on injured reserve, hoping that he can return towards the end of the season and into the playoffs, but I think the future is bright with Evans. I think they found a good one in round 4. Into the 5th round, 2 5th-rounders, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah coming in from the University of Minnesota. Now, he is a guy that you drafted specifically for the scheme. He's a guy that can fit in at defensive tackle, play some 5-tech. He's got some length. He's 6'5", 282. He's got a good frame. He could add some muscle. Well, he's got plenty of muscle, but he could still add some good weight. But he was inactive for the first 12 games of the year, but last 3 games, he's been getting involved in special teams as well as rotating in on the defense after Jonathan Bullard went on IR with a biceps injury, as well as James Lynch now is going to miss the rest of the regular season with his shoulder issue. So Osezi, Kairos Tonga have been getting more and more involved, and Kevin O'Connell shouted him out specifically, where he's got 3 tackles, 3 pressures, brings a lot of heart and hustle along the Vikings defensive line, which has been relatively inert in terms of pass rush this season, so I think Osezi is going to be a big part of the Vikings rotation going forward. 5th-rounder Ty Chandler. So North Carolina come on and raise up, also played at Tennessee. He played in special teams 2 games early in the season, broke his thumb, ended up on injured reserve. Now, they started the 21-day clock to get him back to practice and then activate him onto the 53. Hasn't happened yet, so they may be shutting him down for the season, but I think the future is bright. Preseason superstar, a little bit of a do-it-all player. I think the moniker of Baby Alvin Kamara could stick with him. And whatever happens with Dalvin, who is due to earn $10.4 million next season, Alexander Madison is going to be free agent. I do think that a running back by committee where you have a guy like Kinkene and Nwangu more involved in the offense, as well as Ty Chandler on passing downs and situations, I think that would make a lot of sense going forward. 2 6th-rounders, offensive tackle Vidarian Lowe coming out of Illinois, long-term project, been on the 53. They didn't want to risk putting him on the practice squad, potentially getting poached, inactive through the first 12 games. Played some special team snaps the last 3. That's about it. I think that the Vikings do see him as a future potential swing tackle. Maybe after Blake Brandel's rookie deal expires, maybe moves on. Maybe they try Brandel at guard when he comes back next year. Who knows? But I think they like what they have in Vidarian Lowe. Fellow 6th-rounder wide receiver Jalen Speedy Naylor coming on Michigan State. He's played 15 offensive snaps, sort of rotated in there. Has 201 on special teams. Is a prodigious punt gunner. Is able to really get down there. Him and Chris Boyd are doing some work. Also, he has 2 catches on 20 for 28 yards on 5 targets. One of those was a Ryan Wright fake punt. Also, he has 2 first downs on both of his catches, so we love that. Also, he's got 4 tackles on special teams. So he's a nice do-it-all guy. His rookie year, I think that he's a guy that could progress up the depth chart as his time with the Vikings goes along. Lastly, 7th-round pick tight end Nick Muse, initially on the practice squad, added to the 53 after a couple of injuries, but 10 games. 95 special team snaps. He's getting involved in the 3rd phase. So I understand why some Vikings fans say, well, we don't have the bright, shiny toy. We don't have the rookie superstar. We don't have, we barely have any regular full-time starters in the rookie class outside of Ed Ingram. But I get it. I fully understand it. But think about what this class is going to look like 2 years from now. Like, Lewisine is going to be starting. Andrew Booth, maybe, if he can stay healthy. Ed Ingram will hopefully be rounding into form as a very solid starting right guard. Brian Asamoah is going to be a starter and a stud and maybe even a captain within 2 years. Caleb Evans is going to be starting at cornerback for the Vikings. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, at minimum, is going to be a big part of the Vikings defensive line rotation. Ty Chandler is going to be greatly involved in the offense. Vidarian Lowe might be the new swing tackle. Jalen Naylor, good special teamer. Maybe he works his way into like a wide receiver 3-4 role. It's possible. And then Nick Muse, I don't know, maybe he's Hawkinson's backup in a couple of years. It's possible, man. So I understand. Don't poo-poo this rookie class because it's not hitting right away. Again, we live in a microwave culture. We need to live in a crock-pot culture. Let these guys simmer for a little bit and get all beautiful and tender and saucy. I'm hungry. Anyways, that's it. Let's take a look at the Vikings 2022 rookie class so far. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Once put the work, put a little something in the Venmo. But to next time, Skol, production value.